Hi there. Hello, hello, hello. Just need to find something. Got it. Very impromptu yet again. So I'm just waiting. I can chat no matter what because it's lovely to have everybody here. I would like to say thank you to everybody who has joined in the past couple of months as I noticed, oops, I don't want it that bright. Wrong remote control. Yeah, I have a wrong remote control. Let's just move that way just a tad, just to give a bit of light here on things. Um, that'll be good because I hit over 3,000 subscribers. I've said this often before, but my and if you're new, you won't know this unless you've watched my very early videos, is that I started a YouTube channel a few years ago because I realized that I need to speak about my ideas. I need to put them into words so that I understand what I'm trying to do, that I can make sense of what's going on in my head, and it's good practice for me to communicate with others still. I left teaching about 10, 12 years ago, and God, I've got a bit of mess there. Hang on. I've got a lot of mess here at the moment. You cannot see behind me, which is a good thing. Um, and my opportunities to talk and to teach, particularly during lockdown, have been very limited. So YouTube has been brilliant for me. So when I started it, it was purely for myself as a way to force me to speak about what I was doing and why I was doing it. Hi, Christine. Lovely to have you. Um, and I'm absolutely amazed that 3,000 people have followed me, especially given my lack of content or my limited amount of content over the past year and a half, 2 years nearly since I hurt my shoulder. That really stopped me for a number of months, and I've just never really got back into the swing of it, but other things come along in between. It's been a difficult time. So thank you so much if you're a new subscriber. Thank you so much if you're a steadfast survivor. Yeah, survivor is a good word for me today. Subscriber, because I really do appreciate that, as I appreciate all the messages, the little chats we have when I go live, and hopefully you find the videos helpful and are wanting to try things out. And today I am doing something different. As you may have gathered from the title of the video, I have been intrigued by collage for a long, long time. If I go back to when I did my A-level art about 20 odd years ago now, 20 years ago, I thoroughly enjoyed looking at the work of Wang Gris and Picasso, where they used collage, and particularly where collage was used and split up and imaginary lines put between things, different things were joined up, different scales were used, and so on. And I really enjoyed doing that. In fact, in my sketchbooks from back in the day, back at that time, a lot of my pages were covered with tissue paper and other papers to act as a background to take away that stark whiteness and to be able to work on colour. And again, I enjoyed that because it gave me the opportunity to start with a medium colour, so a medium tone, and then to work with black and white or a darker version of the colour and white to really work with those shadows and highlights, which is something I still love to do. I still love to bring out that feeling of dimensionality, that feeling of volume to my work. I'm not quite sure that's going to be the same with collage, but I think it overlaps in some ways with a lot of things I do and with other things, because if you know me, I struggle with using paints and watercolors and color in general. I feel I do. You may disagree, but I don't feel comfortable. Watercolor painting just vexes me completely. I don't think I'm meant to use it in any particular way in terms of art. Basic coloring, maybe, that's fine. Adding, a wash to line drawing, it'll work. But I really want to do something with it. I want to find a purpose for it. I find watercolor magical. As I do many other mediums I use, I love distress inks. for their grungy nature, as well as some of them are really quite bright and colourful. You'll have to excuse the light going up and down because the sun can't make its mind up whether it's going to hide behind the clouds or ignore them at the moment, or the clouds are just playing silly beggars with the sun. So I bought a book the other day, it caught my attention, and it's this one I will show you. Collage de jour. Sorry, Gail, for my French pronunciation, but it's by, who is it by? Lucy Duclos? 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 I don't know. But when I saw the previews on Amazon, and this is self-published by her, so, it's printed on demand, I thought, this speaks to me in many ways. Simple shapes, but embellished with pattern. Simple colours and background textures with pattern added to them. Focuses on colour and texture and pattern, and there's some stitching on here, whether it's real or whether it's faux with a pen, and with anything else you can put on there, different kinds of paper. I do love different kinds of paper. And it was just, let me show you this one. It's just something that I looked at and went, this feels like my kind of collage. Whenever I get inspired by somebody else's work, and I work with it because we learn by mimicry. We learn by copying others' works, following their method, following their process, following how they make something by deconstructing it or watching how they build it up from the beginning. When I was talking about Wang Gri and the work I love to do there, I had to deconstruct how he did his work in order to do something similar. Not exactly the same because I did it my way, but tried to understand his thinking and what was the thought process there. And I particularly, just saying this, I particularly love Wang Gri also because of his choice of colours. They weren't real. In some cases they might have been, but the ones I really loved was where he'd change colours of items. And although he didn't use ephemera as such, so like tickets were used, but he'd actually draw them, reproduce them in his own way in a different size to include in his collage. And they'd often be split up, so you get a part in one place and the part somewhere else, and you might even see the same ticket at a different scale put in there. And it was really quite fascinating how it all came together. Just beautiful work. And but I like this for the different papers, the fact that you encouragement to make your own papers and to explore and to do a little something every day, and not to get over invested in something being perfect because it's not going to be. And if I can find in here as I flick through, is there was something, I think it was about Matisse. This is the thing, it's finding it now. I knew I should have put a bookmark there, but don't be daft. Yeah, the painter Henri Matisse discovered coloured cutouts, papier de coupe, because he was unable to paint at an easel after a serious illness. The cutouts became more than a substitute for colour for him. To cut right into colour makes me think of a sculptor's carving in stone, he wrote of his new art. Matisse carved human figures, leaves, flowers, fish, and many other interesting organisms, which is the simplest and most direct way I have found to express myself up to now. And using collage, using his technique, he designed tapestries, massive ceramic tiles, murals, and even stained glass windows. And it's just looking through this and going, oh, so this is how you can do it. Oh, this is another way of working, reminding me of how much I love things. She's got examples from other artists and how they work there, and sort of like ideas to build up a library of favourite techniques or favourite shapes and cutouts, and working with colour palettes that are quite limited, and making sure that you stick to colours that you feel go together. It doesn't matter about other people. And I said, different kinds of paper, different textures, mark making, and so on. And of course, all drawing is mark making, and all pattern is a repetition of a particular mark or a particular shape or a particular kind of line. And that's something I love to do as well. So it feels right that this is something I'd like to take a little look at. So I've spent a little bit of time this afternoon and I'm going to do some of these things with you so you can see how I do it. Preparing some papers, actually the ones on the top I've had in my stash for several months, quite a few months, certainly much earlier on in the year. And I've dug them out. These would be acrylic paints on gel. No, I think I just used a brayer. A brayer is a kind of roller. And so I've used brown on the background. And in fact, this one might just be a piece of paper where I just cleaned off the colours I'd used. And I had quite a bit of metallic bronze or copper paint there. Some blues and greens. And I don't mind about the marks, the imperfections, because I was listening to somebody today as well who said that some people love perfect art and feel that imperfections are detract from the beauty or make it ugly. Others prefer the imperfections because they are an expression of the artist and make it more human, something like that. And I'm very much of that opinion. Um, I tend to draw more loosely than I did several years ago. I'm not so worried about perfect lines anymore. If they have a wobble in them, they have a wobble in them. That's a function of how my hand-eye muscle coordination is all working together or not, is having a funny day. These I did make. These are all pieces of just copy paper, and they've got these interesting lines on them, which must come from the way the paper is made, from the rollers it must be put through. And that's quite interesting because the ink actually sticks to me. You may not be able to see them very well. If I hold that up, perhaps you can see those lines along it. So I've made some in various greens and blues. That looks more like a purpley blue, but it is a blue. And I've got a more greeny, oceany sea blue. This one was interesting because I mixed that kind of blue here, sort of like almost an indigo blue, with um, aged mahogany and rusty hinge distress ink. So a red brown and this kind of orangey brown here. And I got all these lovely colours. And I did go back over the top with some of the blue. This is just a piece of the sketchbook paper from the sketchbook I'm going to be using because I tore two pieces out instead of one. Just watercolour. No plan on how I'm going to use it, but I didn't refer back to these, but I wanted to create, because I did this and some pages here first, and I wanted to use colours like this on the distress inks rather than start with the distress inks and try and use watercolours. Again, it's not perfect. There's all kinds of blotches and and things there, and I'm fine with that, and so on. So this one actually ties in quite nicely, as does this one. There's no green on it, but it picks up these colours and the orangey colours quite nicely. This one works quite nicely with the blues and bluey purples. That one's not going to work, I don't think, but I will hang on to it because it may work with some of the other things I've done. That one kind of works as well. And they kind of go with the acrylic paints. So I'll pop that one to one side. Now then, these are pages out of this really old chemistry book. Um, there's a beautiful town not far away from where I live called Hay-on-Wye. And Hay-on-Wye is known as the town of bookshops. It's got so many bookshops, and some of them have, specialize in very rare books. Others have lots of different books, and some even have bargain sections. And so when I went there, I saw there were many of these. In fact, the names that are on here, Holderness and Lambert, I recognise from other books that I think I would have had in A-level chemistry going back in the day. But this one dates back to, as it will say in here somewhere, hopefully find it all. Reprinted August 1939. So this is 1939. And science is pretty much the same that's taught in school today, it's just without the stuff, the more, other stuff that we put in now. So I took some pages out of here and I've coloured them with watercolour. So here I've just got stripes, and again, the colours here will go with the colours that are on here. Basically, because I used watercolours and I used the same watercolours in my watercolour set. to mix colours and to make colours. Even this one that looks different will fit because it's made out of a mixture of 3 of these colours or perhaps even 4. And, I just went with that. This one's very pale. You might not even be able to see the colours because the light's so bright at the moment, but it's added very subtle hues to it, as the watercolour on this. You can see it's all kind of, well, science feels the right thing for me to include. These I wanted to try because I did buy when I was looking at creating junk journals and things like that, something that never really fits well with me either. I like to watch people make them. It just doesn't work for me. I just don't enjoy the process, or perhaps I do to a degree, but I quickly lose interest in it. So it's not for me. But these papers are really weird. It's where the ink is seems to repel the watercolor, and they've got a weird kind of finish to them. I can't remember where I got them. It was either Amazon or I did buy some stuff from Temu once a long time ago. And I've still got them all here, and I'm not going to buy from Temu again, but ethics, morals, and so on, once I found out about stuff, which I should have known, but I didn't. So I'll make use of what I have. And then there's this, which is just a tiny square of handwritten stuff. And this one, a lot more garish than the others. I may not use this one because of this bright. It's supposed to be like a sienna brown, but it's turned out really quite bright and orange. I think it's because I mixed it with some that would be, oh, what's the color I like? Gamboge, yellow. Um, but it's, you know, there are bits I could use. So let me make a start on stuff because I never ever tire of playing with watercolor. And so let me create a page from this. This one will do. Ferrosulfuric oxide. God blimey, that's an old-fashioned name for iron oxide. One form of iron oxide, anyway. Look at this. I keep tiny little bits because they're always useful. You never get rid of anything until it's too tiny to use. So I've got the simplest of materials. I've got a jar of water, as they say in London, water. Say round here is water. Well, I say water. In Welsh, it's dŵr. There we are. So I am wittering along. Christine, you're very kind with your words. Thank you so, so much. And I think with all the comments that people leave, I view a lot of you as friends as well, even though we've never met or spent a lot of time conversing. So thank you for that. So the colours, these are naughty. For my birthday in the summer, I spoilt myself and bought myself some Daniel Smith watercolours because then I'm intrigued with them and why everybody raves about them. But I've got here, which is, it's a blue-green. Don't ask me what blue-green it was because I don't know, but I'm going to put some of that down. I'm going to try and get as much of it out of my brush as I can because I hate wasting stuff. There's only most probably a tiny amount on there, but mentally. That comes from growing up. I never really had much. And what I had, I used to guard carefully that it didn't run out in case I never got it again. And tried to keep it well hidden in case my delightful brothers found it and decided to wreck everything that was mine. And then I used to get the blame for their destructiveness because I hadn't hidden it well enough. Yeah, don't, go figure. Parents, mothers, in my case, but it's in the past. But I still have this problem with just using as much as I need to, and not worrying about wasting stuff. It's a weird one. So all I'm doing here is I'm just adding yellow to this so that I'm going to make something that's a bit more green. The first one was more bluey. This one's a bit more yellowy green. And I'm trying not to make a mess of my watercolors because I hate it when I do that. That's a lovely green now. Look at that. Hopefully you can see. And I'm just creating colour. I've got this here, which I'm not I can't remember what this one is. This one might be a burnt sienna. It might not be. I think that's a quar colour, but I can't remember what quar which colour it is. So I'm adding this. It's sort of like a nice browny colour. It's more like an ochre than a burnt sienna in my head. Again, it changes that colour of that green. And perhaps I will just add a little bit of that bluey green to part of it so I can just go back and perhaps create a colour that will spread one into the other. And then perhaps going down here with something that's a bit more browny but still greeny. And I've now got on a page that I think is quite interesting to use for collage. This needs to dry. I'll put it to one side for now, but earlier I used my heat gun. I'll do another one because you can never have enough, apparently. Put it this way, that what I don't use now can go in the sash for another time because you just never know what will happen. Oh, that's all, that's separated, the core has. So I'm going to add some definite to make something that brownish colour. It's more of a stony colour than anything else. It's quite a neutral brown. Then I'm going to add a little bit of, I think that's alizarin crimson. I need a little bit more because it's getting quite watered down now. Oh, I've got some colours there. I can wash around, get some colour up from the rest of the pan. Just mix it all in. And I've got this colour here, which is going to make an interesting colour with that mixture at the top. I'm going to add some of this blue, which should create, if I've got enough of the red there, I haven't. So let's just get a bit more of that red. And I've got a reddish purple colour. More of a bluey purple. Must be something that's a bit more bluey. I'll add a bit more blue. Oh, that's really strong, isn't it? So I'm just going to blend that right the way down. And again, I'm going to put it to one side and let it just dry. I'm not bothered about having bright and vibrant colours here. That is not my intent at all. So what I'm going to do is perhaps dot some of this excess in where it's wet and just let it all just do what it will do. Let's add some, pick the last of it up so it's got a chance to dry and just fill in some of the rest of the paper, because who knows, perhaps I'll come back and use some of these plainer bits. So you've got the background of the paper behind them. So there we are, rather than run the risk of that running everywhere. I do like to keep my paints nice and clean. I do admit that quite freely. I don't like them getting mucky. I can actually almost shiver with worry when I see somebody's paint palette with all the colours mixed. I know. It's me. So this is just printer paper. Again, nothing fancy, nothing special. This is actually quite heavy printer paper in terms of the weight. It's not just, you know, the budget paper. But I have got some colours, you know, I've got some distress inks out. I've got greens, I've got some browns. Oh, and for some reason I suddenly picked up some that are, I didn't use these last time. Perhaps I will today. Perhaps I will now. So I'm going to use tea dye first. But before I do anything else, I'm just going to get rid of what ink is on my piece of sponge and foam. This is called cut and dry foam. It's made by Ranger, but I know other companies make something similar. But this is the same as the fun foam you can get, or EVA foam. And you can actually use it to create stamps. You can either draw into it to actually, that's just given me an idea. You can draw into it to create lines and patterns and then use it to stamp. And if you don't like what you've done, you just take a heat tool to it and just heat it up and you see those lines disappear. Or you can carve bits out, or you can cut bits of it out and stick it onto cardboard or something to create your own kind of stamp. So it's got many uses. And I prefer to use that side for adding distress ink rather than the foamy side, because I just don't like the foamy side. So this is quite greenish, and it's got this kind of, oops, I'm not worried about bends or anything else in it. It's got some interesting colours on it, shall we say. I'm going to use some scattered straw. Oh gosh, that's really moist, that ink pad. I don't know why, just is. I may have recharged it the last time I looked at it, just to give a different colour, it's a bit more yellow. And I wouldn't mind a little bit of pink in here, just to see what happens. And this is Victorian Velvet, which is a softish pinky colour, but it may just bring out some interesting colours in there I might be able to make use of. That's it. I could leave it like that. With the others, I sprayed them with water to give a little bit of water spots, but it didn't really work. So I've done that one. Let's do another. So I won't use those again because they are a bit pale and insipid, but I don't mind pale and insipid. This is the one I wanted, was my blue one. And I'm using the same lump of cut and dry foam. I'm not worried at all about transferring inks because the wetter ink will stick on top of the drier ink. They'll mix, sort of like, they'll come off on the paper, it's fine. Oh, that's nice where this is crumpled. That's a good idea, actually. Let's give it some crumples and flatten it out and then add this. How about that? Ooh. Now that works nicely. It would have been better perhaps if I'd added colour all the way across to begin with, because all I'm doing now is highlighting the crumples. But that's an interesting texture. Yeah, I like that. So let me go to some browns. And I will use, I think brush corduroy would be a good one because I think that one might work fairly nicely. Yeah, because it's more of an orangey kind of brown. So it looks more well, it's not really rusty, but you know, it does look a bit icky. That one back away. And then perhaps some green would be nice. Let's look. Trundled sage is always a go-to. Let's see if we can get some ink in these dips. We should be able to if I just do that. Now, I'm not sure whether this is going to go with my other things, but quite like that from having it being flat and crumpling it. That's interesting. I like that. So that can go over there as well. And in the space of just a few minutes, I've made a few papers that I can work with. So I'm going to pop these away. And you can join me as I experiment in a sketchbook. Right, that one's, oh gosh, that one's still drying. Got no idea where I put my, oh, there we are. Look at that. Lucky fingers, a kimi, a fuzzy. That's Welsh for fuzzy. So it's yuck, it's a fuzzy. Okay. Right. Sketchbook. Not that one. That one isn't the one I wanted to use. So where's the one I want to use? It's under here, I think. Yes, there it is. We have a sketchbook. This one is the one I've been working in. And I've got lots of things in here. I think I've showed you this in my previous video where I've done lots of seed pods and things I can make use of. I did these on the 24th, which was whatever day it was, 3 days ago. Just started with things that look like feathers and added patterns and so on. I did use some inspiration. Then I went on to things like pumpkins and gourds and fruits and so on, mushrooms. That there's no order to how I did this. I did this all around the same time, and it just everything got muddled up on pages. As one idea came, I thought, well, that'll make a nice shape for this, and that'll do something nice there. These patterns are also used in mark making, which I went, oh, I can be a bit dim. And I've got pages more of things. I've got something there that looks like a little ghost. It's meant to be an upside down flower, but, hey ho. As I do it, I thought, "No, you're a ghost with tentacles." Or a ghost, what do you call those things that float in the sea? Jellyfish. Jellyfish. The Welsh name. Hi, Judy. There is that, yeah, 'cause they're treated with oil to stop them rusting or whatever. It's the same with, dip pen nibs. You need to clean the oil off them. Um, and it's recommended that you sort of like heat them with a lighter or a match or something to burn it off, once you've used isopropyl alcohol, because it doesn't really get it all off. That's something I got to remember to do the next time I use dip pens. Yeah. So I've got lots of ideas here, and some of these would be great for collage items. Simple shapes is what I'm looking for. And then I was looking in the book and how she was talking about collage shapes ideas because scissors are your main tool, scissors and glue, sometimes a craft knife, but nothing more complicated. And about how you just use shapes and use negative shapes, either solid block shapes like this one. Oops, let me move that down. Solid block shapes like this, where you cut out a shape here and you might use that shape elsewhere or keep it for something else. Things like this is one that's used simple shapes with mark making and so on. The pebbles are not included, they're just there for decoration. Here's some examples of shapes you can make. She likes the idea of naming the shapes and keeping a library in a sketchbook of the shapes that you like, the things that you gravitate to on a regular basis. These so much like seed pods. So being able to cut these shapes out and then add the details afterwards. I most probably could, Judy, except I have coloured some of them. I have a plan. I do have a plan. It's not in motion yet, but it will be. Um, so there's all sorts of things, and here's some examples of mark making you can do. I already do this, which is the crazy thing. I just do an awful lot of it. So I am going to put that to one side. I'm also going to put the soggy paper there to one side. I'm also going to put that book to one side. I'm going to dig out a couple of pairs of scissors. Where's my big ones? I have got big ones somewhere. I can't see them. They're not where they should be. Oh, heck, they'll do because I'm not working in anything very big. So I have got a craft knife because me and scissors, I'm limited. I am. Put my sketchbook out of the way and I'm going to use a new sketchbook here. This is by Art Gecko. The paper's quite sturdy in it. It's also sized, internally sized, so you can use watercolor and so on it. And I did use watercolor on a piece. And all I need is that, and I need some glue. I've got a glue stick, but I've also got some tacky glue in this little bottle. I'm not going to use Mod Podge or matte medium because I've used distress inks. That means that um, if I put anything wet on the top, the colour's going to shift and move. So I'm not going to do that. So let me just get all of my bits and bobs over here. All the bits and pieces that I've used. And let's see what I can use and what I can do, and which ones I'd like to start with. I'm going to put these bought ephemera to one side because I don't feel I want to use them. These I do like, and I like that a lot. So I just want to cut out, and I like that one. This one I really do like. And I just want to cut some shapes out. And I am going to do it one shape at a time and put it down and just see what happens. The other thing I really, really need, is a pair of glasses, and I found my scissors. Oh, there we go. So let's just go. Am I going to throw that piece of paper away? Nope, I like it. I do like it. I was tempted to try and sort of like tear a square out, but I think I'm going to go for nice edges. So I think I'm going to cut one square here, squarish. It's not going to be perfect. There's square. And it's quite large for this. Which way round do I want to put it? Do I want to put them horizontal? I actually really like them vertical. And I tell you what else I might do is I'm going to cut a shape out of it, just a simple rectangle. I may have cut slightly in there, but if I put them that way, I can then flip that either like that, or I could put it with that blue there. That makes a bit of sense. That's interesting. Do I want to do that at the top? Let's start building from the bottom. I'll pop that there. That's interesting. I think it's interesting. You may not. I think so. Let me just get some other bits and bobs. So it may be this edge of paper where the sheet of paper's torn. That's got an interesting, as I've torn it, we've got it splits the paper into two layers. That's got an interesting difference there. So that'd be quite nice to use somewhere. Perhaps that one would be good to perhaps use underneath this one, would it? Can I do that? Put it like that. Put it like that. If I did it like that, we've got, it looks like this then is growing out of this. So I wonder if, does that work? It does, doesn't it? It looks like it's growing out of it. And perhaps I can just slide that in there then, as if it's pushing it out the way. But I quite like that empty space. This is my thought process. I like that as it is. Perhaps I'll just put that to one side for a moment and perhaps, yeah, that's good. Because I can add patterns and colour. Perhaps, perhaps that could go there. I don't know. I like that though. Okay, let me just pop those to one side. This. I don't know. Got lots of sheets of paper. What oh, I'll show the book again. So I can't remember her name. Lucy Duclos says is that if you find you don't know what to do what you can and come back another day or another week and carry on. And she recommends having a couple of projects at least on the go at once, so that when you're not sure what to do with one thing, you can always come back at another time and finish, but carry on with that creative urge elsewhere. I'm going to do something. I'm going to split this and perhaps make something of it over here, maybe. Not sure. Plenty of the paper, so it's not a worry. Okay. So do I want to put something else up here? Quite like these colours, but I haven't got really any of them. I've got some of these in here. So perhaps I will do something here. I know what I'd like to do. I'm going to cut something out that's, again, it's roughly square shaped. Oh, come on, scissors. Yes, I'm left-handed and I can't use left-handed scissors because my cutting out is worse with left-handed scissors than it is with right-handed ones. I'm I write with my right hand. I'm right-handed with other things. I'm equally as bad with badminton rackets or tennis rackets and so on with either hand. It doesn't make any difference which one I use. Neither one is any better. When I'm cooking, I will use whichever hand is closest to the utensil I want to use. I tend not to use knives in my left hand, though I have been known to. Um, it's very, it's just one of those things. And it comes down to me breaking my right arm when I was 9 years old. And wanting to do my schoolwork and everything, I learned how to write with my left hand. Tried giving me a huge chunky marker I could hold between my finger and thumb and move my arm because I was in plaster halfway up my upper arm. But that just didn't work. So I just practiced writing with my left hand. But when I could write with my left hand again, well, oh, you've got a leaf. Oh, now that could be interesting, couldn't it? I'm wondering how about I do that way and perhaps have a couple of leaves. Bearing in mind now, I've got this one that's like a frame for white space. Don't think I'll use that, but I'll hang on to it because that's interesting. So let me do that kind of thing again. Cut out the rest of this lovely paper that's greeny and pinky and we'll have a different sized leaf. Oh gosh, that's very, yeah, we're going to have a very wide, chunky-ish leaf. Well, a smaller one. Don't mind that. Oh, it looks almost ginkgo-ish. I told you I can't cut for love or money, but these will work. And if I can get them in places where perhaps it will look like we've got leaves or parts of leaves sticking out, then I think we'll be okay, you know. Then once I've got that sorted, I'm going to start sticking these down. I may want to cut some off this, which gives me the opportunity then to narrow this. I think that'll work as well. The other trick to using scissors is to move the paper, not the scissors. I'm equally as bad doing that, mind you. Yeah, I've got a deckled edge. Hello, I'm Sunshine Star Child. Lovely to have you with you. I've got some deckled edge edge rip rulers here. Um, but this paper will should rip with a nice edge on it, so that's what I'm going to do in a moment. I could rip these out, but I quite like the clean edge. So I do want to make this a little bit shorter because it is a little bit on the tall side, and I want to make the top that little bit narrower, which means I'm going to tear the edge. Does that work? I do like how that'll work, and I might need to move this over a bit to get my leaves on. Let's have a look. That leaf will fit. That one will. I don't want to overlap them particularly. That's a nice little one that can go there. I would like a third one at the top, to be honest. Perhaps that one will fit. Perhaps that one can go in front. Actually, it can. Okay, and I know what to do about that. Where be my distress inks? I'm going to use some vintage photo archival ink on that one, on these, just on the edge, because this will bring out that edge, will darken it up, so they will stand out against each other. It's like thickening the line, or adding line weight in Zentangle and pattern drawing. So it's the same kind of ideas, just in a different way. So instead of, say, drawing a string as you would in Zentangle, mine is made out of all of these paper pieces. I've no idea whether this is gonna work out, whether I'm going to enjoy it, or whether I'm going to continue. I probably will continue with it because my brain does like things like this, you know. Okay, so I think I need to start gluing things down here. So let's have a look. So I want to glue that down about here. So do I want to use that? I hate glue sticks, so I'm going to hopefully get this to work in hopes it hasn't glued up. Come on, you can get down there. So if I start there with a bead of glue, I can see where I'm going to stick this down. Much prefer liquid glue to glue sticks. Glue sticks are messy. You could argue that liquid glue is, but it doesn't, you don't have to have it spread out to get to the edges, and I don't need to go right to the edges. Okay, so I'm going to stick that there. Oh, heck, just like that. But I do want to pop this so I've got the base to it, and then that little bit that sticks up, and I want it sort of like cutching it. There we go. So that is now fixed firmly there. So let's just fix this one down here as much as I can. This probably should have worked from the other direction, but I will get some glue underneath this bit now. Oh, yes, we will. So that will all just settle down there. And then this one, if I can pick it up, fingernails still. Haven't broken yet. It's just a bit of glue there. So yeah, don't know what that means, having, if anything, that I've got a tree growing out. So how would I like these? Like that and perhaps that one. That one just there. As if they're budding out. In fact, I could almost do a couple more, couldn't I? So let's do that. Let me just pop my pin back in the top of this glue. Oh, come on, Angela. Bring it to you where you can see what you're trying to do. That would be useful. I need something to stand it upside down in so the glue goes to the bottom. Right. So do I use these? No, I think I might use these, this one here, because I've got that lovely, yeah, this one here will be nice. And I am just going to cut it because I'm going to cut the leaves out. So I'm using this section, and I might use a bit of the yellowy, more yellowy section as well. In fact, if I, yeah, let's just get a couple there. Don't want them too long, that's the thing, do I? So I was thinking about folding it that way, but this way could be interesting. And perhaps if I fold them in half this way, I can get a leaf out of one side and one out the other side. That'll be good. So I've got one there. That worked. I have my moments of madness, honestly, or genius, depending on your point of view. They say there's a fine line between genius and insanity. Don't know if I told you this. I'm not sure whether it's the same man, but I know there was a member of my grandmother's family, my mother's family, who did have mental health problems and eventually took his own life. I'm not sure that it was her father. Um, it may have been one of her brothers. I can't remember, and I haven't really dug into that in the family tree fully. I need to get. I say I need to. Some point in time, I will get back into digging and delving for information. But I found out that it must be my grandmother's father. His name was Samuel Hurd. I think it was her father, not her brother. And he was an engraver and watercolour artist in London. And I didn't know, but I've had a lifelong interest in, if I haven't looked into it very much, and love of William Blake. And when I was looking up information about him online, I discovered that he had actually been commissioned to work on a facsimile edition, or a reprint or a reproduction of Blake's Songs of Innocence. And actually, I like that as it is. I've got a pointier bit that end, so that can go out that way. Do I need this little one? I'll put it down there. That works. Yeah, I know. I've got 4 leaves. Yeah, I know. Welcome to my world. I like 5 normally, but they're such chunky leaves. 4 will do. He never finished the work because they wanted it as accurate a copy as possible of Blake's own illustrations and work. The problem was nobody knew exactly how he'd created the colours he had and the techniques he'd used to create his drawing, because he didn't leave any records and he didn't really tell anybody about them. And so this ancestor of mine worked on them and got so many done and just had to give up because it was driving him batty. And I just thought, yeah, I can understand that. But it was quite an interesting thing. And I'm going, oh, it's interesting how before I knew this, I'd always wanted to look into Blake more and find out more about him, because he's a curious character, that's for sure. And his writings are interesting. They actually seem to make some kind of sense to me, which is either worrying or wonderful or both. I'm never quite sure. But yeah. So I'm looking forward to learning more about him. Now, do I want to do another one? Just one there? Problem is, this is going to go off the page because I should move these down perhaps a bit. And I can't move them now because this is tacky glue and it's stuck. Shall I just pop one there like that? That one? No, I think I would prefer the one that's got the pinky colours in it. And if I pop it that way, that'll be nice. So it's a bit of my family history. And there's even, I think it's a Wikipedia entry about him, or you know, about the songs of Innocence. I don't think he did the songs of whatever the other part of it was. I can't remember. I did that pinky edge down there, didn't I? Let's just get that down. Some of my glue spilled over, it'll be fine. Because oh, look at the mess I've made here. That's me, that is. Do I want to? No, I don't want to. I could put one there, though. And then have that one that side. Because that makes 5 then, doesn't it? That'll work. Should have tried this out first. Should have auditioned things in a new order before I glued them down. Hey ho. I'll try and remember to write notes about this. Oh, Christine, have a good swim. Yeah, I've tried the glitter glue brand, but it tends to separate all too quickly and easily. And I found I didn't like it. This is the one by Craftelier, and it works nicely. The one I always liked was the Cosmic Shimmer acrylic glue. And you can still get it. But I've got tons of this, so I'm not going to get any more until I'm ready to. Now, which way round would I like that? I think that way, because I need to cover that up, so I'm going to have to put a little one in here. But tacky glue is tacky glue regardless. All I know is it dries clear and it sticks very quickly. So once it's down, and I can't mess with it, which actually makes me happy. There we go. So we've got all of that, all of those joined together, and that little one there. It does look a bit odd. It's almost like I could do with one there. Let's have a look. I think I will. Just fold that in half. I'll just get another one, kind of that shape if I can, or one just to go here. And let's just ink that edge. Oh gosh, that's a spiky one. No worries. Okay. Now I don't know what else I want to do here really. I'll think about it in a moment. Let's have a look. I think somewhere down there would be quite nice just to perhaps, yeah, perhaps just there. Just there? No, I've made a right faux pas, haven't I? So just pop another one there. Yeah, that'll do. The problem with this is you get it all sticking round the glue tip of the glue, but it's all fine. That actually's worked quite nicely, I think. It's very weird. Not so sure. I've gone off the screen a little bit, but oop, as I turn the light off and turn it down, let's turn it up because it's gone grey. Oh, there's rain heading my way by the looks of it. Fine rain anyway. Right, that needs a little bit of sticky there because I've peeled it back up. Okie doke, so I've got that. Do I want to put something like that and that on here? These are getting smaller and smaller, you know. I'm fine with that though. Just pop those around that way. That looks almost like there's some little leaves coming out of it. Then those look almost like petals. I shall do that. And then I'm going to call this all my collaging for today. But I am going to do some mark making on these petals and leaves because I think they need it. So do I want to leave it with a gap or do I want to put them? I think I'm going to leave it with a little gap. So that's an opportunity for joining them with lines and patterns, isn't it? That's okay then. Yeah, I could have cut these into leaf shapes, but I quite like this. Who says they always have to be a proper leaf shape? This isn't a real plant after all. It's something that's weirdly created thanks to my collaging skills at this present time, which aren't wonderful, but I'm prepared to explore this and see where it takes me. Maybe not all the time. Well, definitely not all the time, but from time to time. So I'm just going to put my distress inks to one side. I'm going to pop that in there, because that belongs with it. So all of my collage papers to one side. I'm going to have a look here and decide what I'm going to keep. Gosh, most of it actually. Even, yes, just put it all in a pile, Angela. It'll be fine. I will hoard little bits because, you know, trees have died for this. So I've got all of this here. Now, there are many things I could do. If I thought I could have got my Neocolor 2s out and use those to add some colour to this. I could use watercolours, but I'm going to, because this isn't watercolour paper, it'll start pilling and getting destroyed. I have got pens. I have got coloured pencils, though. I have sorted all my coloured pencils out into colour families. Look at this. I've got a tidy box or an art organizer, sort of like a box that's got 8 different sections in it. It's over a foot long, and I've put my Prismacolors, Colour Soft. I've got some. What are the other Derwent ones I've still got? Colours, not the Colour Soft. There's another brand I've got in here. Oh yeah, the Chroma Flows still, together with some Castle Arts um, harmonious colours and their pastels. And I've spent some time yesterday and today organising them, thinking, what a good idea. I bought 3 of these lovely lime green totes. And so I may very well end up, I am sorry I'm moving across you, using the others for various art supplies as well. And the nice thing is, some of the dividers are removable, so you can make bigger sections. Just thinking, oh, this will be fun. So I've picked up a Unipin fine line brush pen, which I'm not going to use because the first thing I want to do is to add some shading on here or some colour. So I wanted a blue that's slightly darker than this, and I'm looking at this one. This is electric blue, bit bright, but let's have a look and see what we can do here. Work with these colours, and I can add this colour elsewhere then, just to add some, mainly shading, just to help other things to stand out. So I've got that. I wouldn't mind some lavender here. This is turning into a bit of a mixed media project as well. So let me have a look. I want something that's purpley. What's that? It's wisteria, which might actually work quite nicely with some of these lines, more purpley lines. I'm going to keep them lined, but I do want some pinky colour there as well. And I've got this ultra pink, which if I use just very sparingly, might bring some of the pinky tone back into that. And perhaps a little here as well. And we've got some of that pinky colour in here, so I'm just going to add some of that there. I'm not worried about being too precise, too perfect. Sketchbook work. I'm just reminding myself, Angela, this is just sketchbook work. Let's enjoy it for what it is. This isn't a finished piece. This is learning. This is experimenting. I prefer the word experimenting to playing, and I prefer mark making or texture pattern to doodling. Because doodling enjoys it, sort of like suggests aimlessness in what you're doing. Whereas doodling suggests, mark making and so on sounds a lot more deliberate, and it is in a way. Pink in this as well, so I'm going to bring some of that pink out with this colour. This here. Right, pop that back. And I need some shading here. I need a darker purple for that, something that's a lot dustier. This is it says it's inky blue, but it's actually a purple colour. Best not to ask sometimes. I think our colour perceptions are all slightly different, but I think that'll work here quite nicely as a shadow, just a shadow around here. And actually, because the vintage photo distress ink around the edge of these is so dark, it's actually working really quite nicely here. Part of me is thinking, perhaps I should have done this before I stuck them down to get into those little bits, but part of me is going, nah, it works fine. And I would like a bit of darkness here and around here as well, just to help to bring this out a little bit. That blue there, I'm still going to move that purple in. Just make it feel like it belongs there, perhaps. I'm going to go over these in the opposite direction and little circles to try to get a slightly more blended feel, but I'm not too worried either there because, again, it is what it is. I'm going to put some over here just to get that darker colour and just to pick out those little bits that are slightly different coloured. Do the same here. These have actually got some gorgeous colours, these Monius colours. They are unlike others I've come across in any other set. I am not good at colour mixing, but having so many colours to hand now will make it easier for me to choose colours that I can use, or colours that will fade, sort of like blend one into another easily. And I've never really managed to get to grips with such things because I can't really do this digitally. I could, I suppose, scanning it in and adding things like this digitally, but I think I'm going to prefer to do it hands-on. I love doing digital art, but I haven't done any for ages. I'm focusing all on this. Then I've got this one here where there's some purplish there. And add some shading there and some shading around this one as well. Been heavy-handed here with that. that can go away now. I do need some more a lighter pink there, so I'm looking for something that's this one is just rose pink. So I must probably pick that colour out quite nicely. And this one as well. A little bit there perhaps. And maybe just a bit more of the lighter pink in here, just to bring them together more than anything. Hints of pink on this one, just to suggest that these are all part and parcel of the same tree. Can't remember what colour did I just use. Can I see it anywhere? No, of course I can't. I've put it back in. It was inky blue, wasn't it? The blue. So I'll add some here just to add some shading there. It's not essential, but got that one. And I would like some more of that beautiful bluey green. You can find a nice bluey green that will fit in that one. This one is teal. Just a hint of that bluey colour, bluey green, which I'll add there as well. Rose, it'll do. Okay. Right, so I did get a brush pen out because I do want to create some marks. Look at the mess I've made down here. That's from my hand. I must have put it in some ink and put it on there. Typical, but it's fine. Just having a look. I've used the Quickie glue pens. I actually used to use them with embossing powder because when they'd dried, so they were just tacky, you didn't get big clumps of the embossing powder. And I used to draw designs in it on paper and use the embossing powder to create the lines almost like stained glass and then add colour and pattern to the sections. I used to work on A3 paper doing that. Yeah, it's a long time ago. Mixed media, messing around mixed media. What am I doing today? I'm messing around with mixed media. So I'm going to start adding some lines with this brush pen just to start adding some definition perhaps to all of this. And I want some lines that run down the length of this trunk. And the lovely thing about a brush pen is it's easy to get some texture into it. And I was worrying about all this colour that I'd added to this trunk that was all a bit weird. And it turns out I didn't need to, did I? So I'm not trying to turn this into a tree that looks realistic. I'm just filling this in with these lines that are broken, that vary in thickness, just to add a pattern and texture there to help it to stand out from perhaps the background a little bit, like so, and then just perhaps a bit there. Now I'm just going to go underneath this line, this here, with this black ink, just to help to pick that out. That actually is really, really stark and in contrast, isn't it? I quite like it, truth to be told. I've got a Uni Posca pen here, a white one, and I'm going to see if I can get some white lines that will stand out on these, because I think that brightness will be quite nice here. So I'm just drawing lines, little way in from the edge, hopefully with plenty of the Posca. I know that when this dries, it should dry opaque, but I may need to go over this again because I've got distress inks on some of these and they're water soluble and they will dissolve in the ink, as they are already doing on this one. But once it's dry, because it's acrylic paint in here, it becomes waterproof. So as long as it's really, really dry, I should be able to work over the top of it. So she going back over it now with another layer while it's still wet. Yeah, actually, it's drying not too badly at all. This is not dissimilar to what I would do if I was drawing here, is it? I'm just pumping the nib up and down just to make sure there's plenty of ink flowing for me before I start making my journey round this leaf. And back over the lines I've just put there, so there's more of the paint going down, which is good. Then I'm going to do this one. I think because I'm having to draw slowly to make sure as much ink comes out as possible from the nib, that my lines are a bit wobbly quite naturally. So I'm not going to worry. And I'm also not going to worry whether they show up very well, because there are ways to make them show up better. And I'm going to use some in a short while, once they've fully dried. We certainly got some petals or leaves now. I think I'm going to make them leaves because these are this is my tree. There we go. Right, back to my black pen because the black will be really good. This has got a very straight edge and I want to do something to define it around it. So I'm just going to draw lines that outline it, not the trunk, because the trunk's got its own lines there. And yeah, I'm using this brush and this brush pen, it's going to give me lines of different thicknesses naturally. So I do want to put a really dark line this side all the way down though. I've decided I want to do that just to make sure this stands out from everything else. Perhaps a bit much, but there's always things I can do later on that will help it stand out or to cut that amount of black down. The same, it's almost like I want to go around these with black as well, much more than I have done. And I am going over that white ink, but the lovely thing is I can always put it back in afterwards. The nice thing about the brush pen as well is it's got a nice sharp tip to it so that I can actually just go right up and under this the collage paper and make sure that it's all hunky-dory and lovely. And I can make some of the lines thicker than others to give that dimensionality again, or the thickness of shadow. So there we go. And then this one at the top would have a thinner line. It's got lumps and bumps. Hey ho. And it's been lumpy bumpy today. But I'm really quite pleased that I've managed to get a video done today, albeit live, because when I came upstairs to play, I wasn't sure what I was going to do or how much energy I'd have. Been flagging the last couple of days. I had a people evening on Wednesday, and also yesterday I had my Welsh lesson, my Thursday Welsh lesson, and I was exhausted from the peoply time on Wednesday evening. It was lovely, but it just drains me. And I really struggled in the Welsh lesson yesterday, not so much with the Welsh, but filtering out sounds and voices when there were lots of voices, when people were talking, when we were having to repeat after the teacher out loud. and my head just would not work, my brain would not work. It's just complete and total sensory overload. Now that's actually worked quite nicely. I think I'm going to put really I would never normally use lines this thick, but there's just something about it. There's something about this that doesn't want delicate lines. It wants to make a statement. I am here. This is where I am growing, and this is where I'm going to continue to grow. And we're going to have organic shapes taking over the chunky bricks. It's a bit like nature taking over the brutalist architecture and modernist. Going, nope, let's go back to nature. Let's have things more natural, is it? There we go. It's actually quite like that. Here on these ones, I'm going to draw leaves inside these shapes. Am I going to colour around them? The answer is I don't know. I really don't know, but I've got them as leaves. Part of me says yes. Part of me's going, no, let's go and get a pen or something out. Got an extra small. I don't really want an extra small. I don't want a calligraphy. I don't want an O1. Welcome to my world of pencil cases. I don't want an O8. That's a bit big. Medium, small. Small might do it. And let's just fill this with simple lines that just echo the leaf on the outside, perhaps, creating shadows behind it, maybe. I don't know. Don't know if this is working. This could have been a really bad idea. All of this could have been a bad idea. I'm sure people will tell me. If you want me to keep all of this to myself in the future, just let me know. So I'm not going to stop doing it. This really is. I think I did show you some collage I'd done. I've done a couple of sessions with collage over the past several months. I'm sure I would have shown you what I'd done. And it's perplexing until you find this is how I want to do it. So although I may end up going, I wish I'd done this, I'd wish I'd done that, wish I'd done the other. But again, nothing is not fixable. If I don't like these, I can just cover them with pieces of collage. The same as here, I can fill these in with pieces of collage as well. What I do want to do is I want that white line to stand out a lot more than it currently is. So I'm going to go around the inside of it with black in the hope that the contrast will help it to stand out. I'm going to do that on all of them quite quickly. Try and tidy up as I go because pen work. As I'm doing this, I'm beginning to think I ought to perhaps have an idea, a kind of sketch to start with, or perhaps not. At the same time, I'm there going, I wish I'd thought this through first, but then I had no idea of what I wanted to do or what was going to occur. I just wanted to do something that I could explore with. One left. And this may not be quite what I had expected or what I wanted to do, but it is what it is. As I said, if I don't like these, I can cover it up. It's not a problem. Okay, around the edge of these leaves, I'm going to put in like a checkerboard pattern because that will let some of the colour show through, but it will also, again, bring out that white band, hopefully, just that little bit more. Perhaps if I go around them before I do the little black squares. So this is an S, it's a Pitt Artist pen. if you didn't know. I didn't I'd be rattling around looking for the right size of, uni pin pens or Sakura microns for ages. This'll do. Again, I'm not gonna become too precious about things with this. I'm just working out what this is gonna look like. I may actually fill these squares in with white or maybe even with some gold. I still have some gold round here. And I can't resist a bit of glitz and glitter, can I? I think it's in my nature. My lovely niece reckons I have a pink and sparkly brain. Hers is pink and fluffy, mine's pink and sparkly. But fluffy as well, she says sometimes. Just bless her. And we're both Fruit Loopy in our own ways. And we're both mad about cats. She went on holiday not long ago. She had a break anyway. And where they were staying, there were lots of cats. And I had a message from her, Auntie Angela, does it cost much to bring a cat home? Why? You know that little grey one I've sent you a picture of? Yes, Leonie. I'd love to bring it home for you. I said, Leonie, it costs a lot of money. Vet's bills, you've got to have either a pet passport, they have to be in quarantine as well, which costs money for so long. They haven't got a pet passport and oh, that's a shame because he's absolutely gorgeous. I said, yes, he is. But and she said, okay, just like to ask. Lovely of you to ask, Looney, but best not. Cost us a fortune. 'Cause it wouldn't be me who'd be paying, you know? But yeah, and to be honest with you, I think they'd prefer the warm place she went to more than the damp, wet climes of Britain most of the time, especially the valleys where you get a lot of rain. But that's why they're so beautiful and green. If we didn't have all that rain, we wouldn't have the beautiful green countryside we have. So that's beginning to mark make, pattern make, texture make. Part of me's going, why did I decide to do this? But I did. So I'm off with it now. What can I say? Oops. So, it is what it is. Okay. So let me just get on here. How long have I been doing this? Gosh, not quite an hour and a half since I started the live stream. For those who've joined new, I just want to say a big thank you to all who've subscribed. I noticed the other day, because I really pay attention to what's going on my YouTube channel, not in some ways, that I've passed 1,000 subscribers, 3,000 subscribers easily. Actually, 3,000. Can't believe it. It wasn't my intention to gather a large following or anything when I started this. The intention of me starting a YouTube channel was I'd realised that I don't think in words, and I'm not really aware of the thoughts that go through my head when I'm doing something, I just do. And it thought it would be a way to get my thoughts out so I can hear them and perhaps other people can have the benefit or at least a good laugh at me from time to time. Because I don't mind I say laugh at, laugh with, because I can be really ridiculous at times. And that 3,000 people have liked what they've viewed enough to subscribe to the channel, maybe to have notifications and come back and watch videos again is amazing. I'm sure that many drop off after a while, which is fine. There's nothing to say that you subscribe and you must view every video and you must return on a regular basis. It's not like that. But it's nice to know that people thought that what I was doing was good enough to subscribe to, which is lovely. Really am going to have to dig that point of the brush pen in around these leaves just to get the part of me thinks I could have done this before I stuck them. Part of me's thinking, nah, just go with it as it is, Angela. It's fine. It is what it is, girly. Truth is truth. Mm. There we go. So there's that. That's given more definition and life, perhaps, to this here. What I am going to do is I am going to add, in places where I can, just a few more little lines here because I've got a finer pen. Skipping on this, but that's fine. Just to add some more intensity, perhaps to the sides, as if there's some shadow. So she not wanting to make it realistic, but it's going to end up that way. Okay, back to the not the uni pin, the this one, the Posca pen, the white Posca, and let's go around the white lines and see if we can actually get some more white here now that we've got dried paint to act as a substrate, so that it might mean I have to go around the black lines again. Hey ho, this happens. It happens no matter what you do, and I'm rushing because I'm aware I've been doing this and not everybody will be interested in it, which is fine. Nobody says you have to. But I would like to know, for those who are watching, whether it's during the live or later on, if you get this far, if this is something that you'd like to see more of, or whether it's something I need to do and keep it to myself, basically, until I feel I'm proficient at it, or I've whetted my appetite, or, decided that it's not for me. I don't know. Just let me know. Either way, it's not an issue. I'm not going to be upset if you say, no, Angela, can you just stick to your usual stuff? That's fine. Okay, so I'll let that dry before I do anything else. While I've got the white pen, I am going to fill these leaves with white circles. In fact, I will fill it up with white, like so. Because when it's dry, I can add black to it and around it. So that the inside of the leaves is just a bit brighter and has a bit more interest to it than it does at the moment. There we go. And I am going to go inside this with white as well. Just to give something there. Okay. So what else? Okay. Let's just go around this again. How can I fill? What can I do with this? I'm going to get my brush pen. I think let's use some very simple marks just to fill in this with some texture, maybe. I think I've made a big mistake here. Do you know that? I don't know why I chose to do this other than I have. Do I carry on or do I let that be the only furry petal? I don't know. Perhaps I can use this just to try different things out on. That would be better. So let me have a look here. Yeah, it's got holes in it. Oh, thank you, Judy. That's really nice of you to say. I don't want to drive people away with my enthusiasm for things that I later decide, no, not for a while again, if ever. The only way you learn is by trying things and exploring, having an adventure. An arty adventure is perhaps the best way to describe it, because they are adventures in art. So it's called my YouTube channel, that Angela's Arty Adventures. All art is an adventure as far as I'm concerned. And adventures can be many things. It's where you explore the unknown, isn't it? Where you find out about the unknown, you experience the unknown. And it's not just about journeys, it's about anything. It's about learning, it's about skills, activities, thoughts, ideas, philosophies, all kinds of things. And in that way, I am an adventurer and explorer, if not physically. Right. Okay. So, what else can we do here? Perhaps I can fill this with further little leaves, perhaps. It's just one at the end. Yes, I know the one at the end's got a a thingy through it, but I don't mind. But the others don't. I could go back and add it in if I wanted to. So I'm drawing all of this just a bit too big, the marks I'm making here, because I'm using a flitter pen. Maybe not. Maybe I can just add a little one here, just to fill that little gap up. Actually, I quite like that. How about this one? I'm going to there we go. Zigzag my way along, because why not? It's all about trying different things out. Oh, that one really needed to go back up, but we'll see what happens here. There we go. Kick it back up. Allow those like that. Not sure about the colours of these leaves. They're looking a bit grungy and not good, but you know, it is what it is. So how about I've done these? How about something else? Semicircles or little humps and lumps and bumps. And how about we make things interesting by changing the size of them and how wide or narrow they are to give us some interest, I suppose. rather than having things all repetitive. Yeah, I did repeat deliberately the repetitive bit. Seemed like a good idea at the time. There we go, that looks different. Oh, and this poor one here. Well, let's turn it just into a leaf with veins, is it? Like so. There we are, just to say it's a leaf or not. These here had circles on them filled with white, didn't they? So I shall just ink around them. Ooh, there's a little one there. Missed that one completely. So I'd have to ink over them even if I put the white on after I put the black down. So this way I get to kill two birds with a stone, really. I'm putting another line in there. So we have something here to make this interesting. I'm not sure what else I'm going to do. Perhaps these could have little attachments to the stem. Why not? So they're not floating in space. Okay. The other thing I did see here, look at this. I still have this gold pen. So I'm going to put gold in these little sections around the edges rather than white because the gold might show up. So it's looking all a bit dowdy at the moment. Because I've filled in some of these and some areas all with black, this will help to bring those out. Like here, a little bit there, some there. And this is a Pentel hybrid dual metallic gel pen. And once these dry, unlike the Sakura, the glitter seems not to be too easily rubbed off as well, because they're a different formulation. Put a dot at the end because, all deserves a, glittering, oops, point. It's a bit there. Missed those. Sure, they're showing up. It's getting them to show up on camera, but they're quite fun. I'm not averse to glittery stuff at all. There's that. Actually, I've done a fair bit of collage if I think about it. I think it was last summer where I was using coloured papers and watercolour, tearing strips, things like, distress inked papers and so on. I'm putting them at the edge of the paper, filling them with pattern and drawing a motif on the other side or at the bottom and so on. I prefer it to the side, to be honest. But done that. How curious. Just remembered that. And of course, I've done bits of collage in the little journals I tried making, sort of like basically junky journaly type things. And something's come through my door. Don't know what it is. I will find out later. Not due a delivery, that's for sure. Who knows? Who knows? Actually, that looks really, really interesting. I'm going to put some gold in the middle of the white, actually, without any black around it here, because that will really set these off then and tie all of this together, won't it? There we go. These holes here, it's almost like I want to put a golden dot at the end of each of these as well. I could have put white, but I feel gold stands out better. And it makes it less, ugh, you know, perhaps I'm overdoing it. Okay, I've got that going on. Okie dokies, and I think here, inside this black line, I'm going to put a layer of gold because gold is good here. Seems to be working nicely with this. This all feels very clumsy to me. I have to say this because I wouldn't normally work in such a, with things that are so thick and lines that are so heavy. And it just feels very, very different. I'm not sure if it's different good or different awkward at the moment, but there's something about it that I'm not sure that this is me or part of this is me. I'm not sure that the grungy colours are me in this instance. I do like the gold though. As you may be able to see if I try and tilt it there, you can see how much it's shining. Okay, yeah, it's catching the light nicely there. Okay, I don't think I necessarily want to do anything else at the moment. I do want to come back. I will want to come and revisit this another time. I'm not too sure at the moment what I want to do. This all f this feels just too heavy, too clunky, too much difference. I think I lost it when I started adding colour and adding these heavy lines around it. Um, but I know as well that if I go away, close this up once the gold's dry, leave it to one side for a few days, a couple of weeks, however long, come back to it, I'll look at it and go, I know what I like, I know what I don't like, I know what this needs. At the moment, I don't know what this needs. I don't know what I can do with it. It's my first attempt at collage in this way. It's my first attempt at using elemental shapes or basic shapes. It's my first attempt at cutting those shapes out and putting things together. I've made mistakes along the way. I've corrected it. You've heard all my thought process. This here was a mistake. I now know I should have cut some leaves out to go there. Hey ho, you live and you learn, don't you? And there's ways of making that fit, I expect, that I haven't thought of yet. It may be echoing those lines around here, is almost drawing square, rectangles around this and repeating it. That could be interesting. My mind is now ticking on that. But it's where I don't know. I mean, I could have a look before I finish. I'm not going to draw, I could draw all the way here. I'm going to do it in pencil simply because this is on the top. So this one would have to go this way. It's not going to go, they're not going to be perfect around here, are they? And some of them will be quite different. This one's right at the very top, so it's going to have a box, perhaps a box that goes behind them might be better. That would be quite good and interesting. So that one sticks there. That one can go down there and perhaps go out that far. That could be good. Let's have a look and see what that would look like if I do the same kind of idea, where I'm just filling this little section in with the same kinds of lines as we've got down here. Bearing in mind that if I wish to later on, I can always add watercolour to these sections just to fill them in and make it feel like they fit together more. Of course, I can erase these pencil lines afterwards. There's no way I didn't want to put a black outline there because there is no outline there. There's just these shapes. So that's interesting. They're actually starting to tie everything together. not sure if it works or not, but in my mind, it's better than it was. It feels that they're now belonging. It's like the trees vibrating with excitement, which is worrying. Should not be excited at this at all, let's be honest. Bless it. It is, I've got a quivering tree, haven't I? So let me have a look, because I've gone down there. Right, okay, so we're going to go that. Yeah, I want it a bit lower down, I think. There. And then I can go this way. This one and this one aren't going to have any quivery bits, which I'm actually fine about. I wonder whether I'm working on too small a scale or using too big shapes that are too big for the scale I'm working on, the size of paper, because I don't want to do anything that's enormous and huge, really, because that would be awkward, I think. So how about if I go here and I finish that block here? That'll be quite interesting as well, because it will go this way. I do need one that goes here as well, don't I? I'm trying not to echo that one too much. But that's all of those leaves gone around except for the ones in the centre. Does that work? Does that work? I don't know, is the answer. All I know is that I feel better about it now, but I could have created the leaves with the square shapes and just drawing leaves on them, or the rectangular shapes and drawing leaves on them and filling them in that way as I did here. Because now I've done that, that feels a lot better. These still need something, it's still not right, but it feels better because as I've said, I've repeated this idea on this. So these don't feel so out of place. It may not be a good thing, it may not work well, but it feels more coherent, I think is the word I'm looking for. And even though the lines are wonky, they're not perfectly level, well, that's fine by me as well. Yeah. And it may be that once I've erased the pencil lines, once this is fully dry, and I can erase these, I've got one of these tubular, one of the erasers you get in like a pencil. I've got one of those I can use so I can avoid knocking off all the gold and stuff. So she who has got bits of gold everywhere. I may want to go back and add some watercolours, some of the same colours I used to colour the paper, either paler or darker. Darker might work, or I may want to leave them as they are, or add some shading with graphite pencil, perhaps. Let's try graph. Actually, I've got an eraser here. So let's try some graphite and see how that looks with this. Let's go full Zentangle-ish. No, I don't like graphite, but because it's a neutral colour, it may work okay with this, let's be honest. Right, next job. Oh, come on. Artie Hoover. It's my little desk Hoover vacuum. It's great for picking up bits of eraser dust and other stuff, like bits of glitter from the pen. Oops. Oh, the glitter does rub off. It's okay. I can live with that. I have got a tortillon here. Hopefully I've got one that I can, that'll do. And I've got this pencil, which will work. So I'll want some shading there and some shading underneath there, won't I? Here, I'll want some shading there and around here. Just a little bit there. So if I put the shading underneath this section, it'll look like this one. The one above it is above it, won't it? A bit there. So if I put some here, perhaps just some there. Let's see how that works. Just a little bit on that side, maybe just a bit there, but really, we've got a likeness there. Is that improving things any time soon? I'm not sure it makes any difference on the camera. Oh, my word of the day. Uh, uh, what would my word of the day be? I know what some of my favourite words are. I love the word scintillation, tintinnabulation, coruscation or coruscant, coruscation, coruscants, not coruscant, yeah. Um, Susurration, such a lovely word, susurration. Adventure would be the word of today, wouldn't it? Art adventure. Adventures in art. Angela's arty adventures. Does that mean I have to change the name of my blog? This and my YouTube channel. It'd be fun though. I like that idea of adventuring because I'm not a big one for adventuring through the world. I still find it hard to go out on my own, to visit places and so on. But I do like to adventure in my, to use my brain and my creativity. And I always hope that urge to explore and partake of these adventures in the world, my arty adventures, will get me out of the house, but sadly not yet. Let's just try this. Some shading here as well. Perhaps I need sort of like I know in mixed media they love their all one pencils. Oh, all one, Stabilo all one, I think they're called. And they're water soluble graphite pencils, or it's not graphite. I think it's more of a wax pencil to do shadows. But I'll stick with graphite for now. It's cool. And then here, I'd really want some here, wouldn't I? Where this side of the tree is, and particularly where it's overshadowing this, and perhaps some shading underneath and to the left of this, and again around that black line. Perhaps just to start to I'll bring some life into this as well, some dimension into it, some volume. This is a Blackwing pencil I'm using, a Blackwing Eras, and their lead is very dark, but it's not so soft that it spreads like butter that's been melted on a warm day. It's gone runny. They're a lot less spreadable, outable. Still shiny, but there's just something about them. I actually like to write with them. They're really lovely for writing with. They're smooth, but they do smudge, but not so much when you're writing because you move down the page. It's just a little bit of shading in places. So that's starting to bring that alive. Oh, there's a little bit needed there. Perhaps that needs a little bit of glue. That started to bring shading in here, hasn't it? I'm started to lift this off the page, which I quite like. Definitely need to get some more glue under some of these pieces of paper. It could be that I could do with more under these patterns here, just to separate them from, a little bit to the left of these just to help lift them. Perhaps just here, just to define that edge and to give some shading as well. And underneath the leaves, it's all interesting. Notice I was going to finish up a while ago. This is what happens because I start talking about things and looking at things and reflecting, and I start to think, what if I did that? I do think this is enough what ifs for today, though, from me. Otherwise, we could be here all night, and I do need to go and have something to eat. Especially my older sister has said she's going to phone me tonight for a chat because her bloke is out. She lovingly refers to him as Farthead, which I think is hilarious. He just accepts it, really. Oi, Farthead. I don't think he'd be too pleased if I called him that, mind you. He has got a sense of humour somewhere. There we go. So, and I almost think that perhaps I need some graphite round these here just to bring those shadows out. Perhaps if I thought or if I realised I was going to do this, I could have not used the coloured pencils and perhaps the colours might have stood for themselves here. But I'm going to say it is what it is. And no matter what, it's my first attempt at this, and I ain't going to beat myself up. I'm going to spend some time making notes on it. It's probably on the same page. There'll be some writing here, so that's another form of mark making. But I think we'll write something here. Get my pencil, and I think down here I'm going to draw some lovely wobbly wonky lines with small gaps between, so I can write what I want to do. It's like Hergé's Adventures of Tintin, isn't it? Angela's Adventures of Art. Blimey, what craziness. What nonsense am I wittering about here? I do not know. I have got a broad one here. Oh, no, that's a brush pen as well. Forgot that's B for brush. Sorry, excuse my arm. But let's have a look. Let's do some hand lettering. I could say Angela's Arty Adventures, but I think I prefer Angela's Adventures. It's a funny V. There you go. That's my phrase of the day. Inspirational? To rhyme me, this is all an adventure. Never quite know what's going to happen. Oh, art is the adventure is a good one. I'll have to paper. Where's paper? Oh, I'll write it on. I'll write it down here. Or to copy the Mandalorian, art is the way. This is the way. Art is the way. There we are. Got there. But I've done Angela's Adventures in Art for now, and that will remind me that I might think about changing the names of things because I like that. Excel graphic blocks, not sure about that. And I have got, I've got matte matte graphite pencils from, Faber-Castell, and I've got the matte black ones from Mars. I don't like the Mars Staedtler. Don't like the Staedtler ones. They're very waxy, and they don't blend out very well, says she who doesn't like it. I have got, Graphitint pencils, which would work. I have got, what do you call them? Chalk pastels. They don't seem to work for me the way that soft pastels used to. But soft pastels, I'd feel awkward, and soft pastel pencils, they're not as soft as soft pastels like the sticks of chalk pastel. Um, so they don't feel quite right, and it would be hard to use sticks on such a small scale. I have Neocolor twos, which could work really nicely. I do have water soluble ink, so I could have used some Noodler's ink or some similar black ink or some coloured ink that I've got. Antique gold would be quite nice, and spread it out to create a shadow there. But I didn't think of it because I'm a muppet at times. The other thing I have got is I do have watercolor ground is a paste you can apply to any surface that it'll stick to, and it turns it into watercolor paper. And that would have been good to use on top of the book pages, but I didn't think to. That's something else for me to consider. I've got these written here, so no doubt I will write them round here in some cute and weird and wonderful way. Um, I am going to sign off now because it is nearly 20 past 5. The carpet fellows are interesting, you're quite right. Having that water soluble pigment in them does make them quite interesting. And of course, when you add water to the pigment, it enlivens it. Same as with the graphites. The graphite you can move like graphite, but then you can activate the color and spread the color out further as well. So they're an interesting combination. Um, Using watercolors with graphite shading is an interesting thing. In fact, shading, I could do shading within these leaves, around these perhaps to bring some shading there, and the same here. I'm not I certainly could on this. Oh God, where's my glasses? Can't see anything. I can, but it's all. Ew. So how about if I did, problem is this is old book page, and it's sort of like very, very shiny surface, and nothing really sticks easily to it. But I have got some areas here where I could put some graphite in. Let's just see if I can get it just to smooth out in those sections. And that does bring some sense of folding. It's hard to see. If I move it on the camera, you can see the shading that I've put in and how it affects the feeling of folds and so on. But it's not my favorite thing, but it's something for me to think about going forward. Perhaps how I can achieve things like this so I can combine my usual way of working in art, the drawing I love to do, the patterns I love to use, these simple patterns, simple motifs, how I can create some of these simple motifs with paper and then add detail with marks and lines and patterns and so on, as a different way of working, and create something, use things that are fascinating to me, like old papers, and colouring them and gluing them down and building up layers of different things and different media. It is truly mixed media. I haven't used a background for this because I thought I quite like the idea of using just plain white for today. I did buy some coloured paper from some Clairefontaine. I can't remember what it's called, but it is drawing paper in different colours, so it's got a texture to it. So I can either use them straight as they are, flat colours, or I can add colour, or I can put pattern on, or whatever I want to do with them. I've also got some blank card because I I do like black. You'd never have guessed that. But I thought working with bright colours on black could be really interesting, or using black and putting things on the top could be, because it does make colours stand out. These colours stood out a lot more as soon as I started putting black on them. Unfortunately, they also stood out more as going, ugh, I don't like that. It's all learning. It's all part and parcel. It may be I need much brighter colours. That's where the neo colours may come in, because they are very saturated, they're very waxy or intense, for example. And because they're permanent, I can also use medium to stick things down. So there's lots of things to consider. And I know this is a lot for anybody who's listening or watching now or joining me or will watch this afterwards, will be able to take in. And it's things I will forget about. I've said them, but I haven't written them down. And but I know there's lots of things that I can experiment with, and it's about digging out my old resources, seeing what I have. I could colour matte medium with distress inks and use that to paint backgrounds. There's so much that can be done. Um, Same with the neocolours. You can colour matte medium or gesso with them and use those kind of like paints, because it makes them permanent. The neo colour twos, the soluble neo colours, aren't waterproof once they dry. They can become kind of, but not entirely. So lots of things to think about, lots of things for me to explore, and lots of projects to do that involve drawing as well, because I could just cut shapes out of paper randomly, or I could stop and think about the basic shapes I want, plan it out in sketchbook form. So, for example, where's my sketchbook? Oh, it's there. It's underneath a pile of grungy papers. So, for example, if I wanted to, say, do a mushroom, then I can look at the basic shapes that I would need, and, two shapes essentially, and then add pattern and colour. I could do that just by drawing, but it could be quite fun to do them out of interesting papers. Perhaps papers, instead of just adding colour, have added patterns or texture to in some way. The same with seeds and other things. Oh, excuse me, hic. These um, can almost be seen as things you could collage, because you've got the basic outline shape, two shapes here, another one of the same colour in the middle, and then you've got the seeds and the central bit. And the leaves could be just one piece, or didn't think about that, splitting them in half and leaving a gap between them. And then adding these patterns and decorations on them. These are just two simple shapes, so two different colours, one for the bottom, so on. That bit could be drawn on, or it could be cut out as part of this, and so on. Leaves, series of the same shapes but in different sizes. These could be two different layers, or it could just be a hole showing something through from underneath, or just drawn on in black or whatever colour you want. Part of me is going, I really need some acrylic markers, like Poscas or cheaper versions, just to try them out. Cheaper, most probably, just to try it out and see what happens that way. Check out Rex Ray. Okay, don't know what Rex Ray is, but I'll put a note on. I'm taking it Rex Ray is on YouTube. Judy. I will have a look and see what it is. But I am hungry, and I've been here for over 2 hours. I've had fun. I hope those of you who have joined me and have been here for all or most of the video, or have just dipped in and out, or will see this at a later time, have also had fun watching this and will give it a go. Remember, nobody's perfect at art. You might think they are, they're not. Everybody's constantly practicing and learning. It is a practice, just like meditation's a practice. If you want to become very good at playing a musical instrument or singing, you need to practice. The same if you want to play a sport or speak Welsh or French or anything else. It's all about practice. And this is a practice. Sometimes they work really wonderfully. Sometimes the practice is a struggle, especially when you're learning something new or trying out something completely different or quite different to what you normally would. And it's it's not giving up just because something was difficult. It's looking at what did I learn from this? One is I perhaps need to cut out more shapes and organize them. I need to work on a smaller scale because this book is only A5 and perhaps an A4 would be better. I've got more space to play with. And it's not that I don't have any A4 sketchbooks, I have tons of them, or A4 paper. But I wanted to do something on a small scale, something that I felt was manageable. But I'm here going, but I haven't got enough room perhaps for what I'd like to do. It may be that I enjoyed solving problems or things that I saw as a problem, how this stood out as very different. But now it feels that it's deliberate and it fits. Um, there are things that I think I need to look at, which is the colouring of paper that I'm using, perhaps just not bothering with it or just using small amounts of coloured paper that I've coloured like vintage paper to see what happens. Um, and just go from there, perhaps sketch it out. But it's certainly all about learning, it's all about considering things. And it's a work in progress, just like the whole of my art adventure is, my journey in art, which always has been an adventure. Sometimes the adventure gets too much and I need to retreat into familiarity and comfort. Other times I'm willing to push those boundaries to do something that's outside of that familiarity or to revisit something that I've done and and push a little bit more to see if I can make it work for me. But I'm also willing to say this is not for me. This doesn't work for me. I've tried it and it's not for me. That doesn't mean it wasn't an adventure. It doesn't mean I've had experiences that are valuable, that I can learn from, I can grow, and I can put into my art practice, even if I'm not aware of what they are, remember them entirely, because they'll be there somewhere in my noggin. So until I see you again, which was probably won't be until next week, look after yourselves, find time to be arty, find time to have an adventure in creativity. And I look forward to meeting you again. Once again, thank you so much. If you're one of the 3,000 subscribers, if you haven't subscribed and you like what I'm doing, even if today's been a bit of a one, then please consider subscribing and leave comments and say hello. Let me know if you'd like to see more of my adventures with collage or not, or anything else. And you never know what I'm going to be able to do. Judy's reminded me about me creating a book of my favorite patterns, texture, all the inspiration I use or ways that I put things together to give you a starting point. It's on my list of things somewhere. Unfortunately, I have a huge amount of inertia towards starting projects, transitioning from something I'm very stuck into. As you can tell now, I've said I'm going several times, but I'm on a roll here, so it's hard for me to say, right, I've got to go now. Yeah, honestly, this is how it is for me, and I now understand why. Um, it's been part of my journey adventure for the last year and a half or more, when something was made apparent to me. So it's been an interesting time in many ways, but life is an adventure. Sometimes it's a good fun adventure, sometimes you're stuck in a dodgy place trying to get out of it. It's like climbing Everest and discovering you can't go any further, but you can't turn back because there's such a block of people behind you. It's that kind of thing. That might be a bad analogy, but you know what I mean. So, or you can't see the branch in the road because you're so stuck on what you're doing. Sometimes you just need to spend some time and take a few steps back and survey our surroundings. I'll be taking a few steps back with this, and perhaps I'll have more to say on it when we meet again. But this really is. Oh, and you, Patty. Um, don't forget, you can see all of this in the live section of my channel. Um, you'll see it as the list at the top of the channel page. You've got sort of like videos live and so on, playlists and what have you. So you can always look there and it'll be there. All right. Everybody enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully, I say hopefully, I will see you sometime after the weekend. So until then, take care. Bye bye. Ta-ra.